Thanks for tuning in to this episode of I Have Something to Say, where subject matter experts are unafraid and unapologetic about sharing their perspectives regarding issues that impact our lives. They speak up because basically they give a shit. So if you're tired of canned answers and want to finally hear real people cut through the BS and talk about real issues, this is the podcast for you. I'm your host, Sami Heyman Marrero from Urbender, and behind our mixer is our producer, Chris Majocha from UdoU.
Hello, everyone. I am so prepared to talk about a special project that all of us today here on the screen are very passionate about and excited about, but also asking for our community and our tribe to support and help us really grow. And this is an interest to give a voice to artists and creators that identify as people of color who don't have access to the resources that they need to live, right, their craft. And so I want to welcome Efraín González, who's the owner of Sound Wave Writers, but also the founder of Voz Latina Broadcasting. It's a nonprofit organization that is a radio station. It's really a nonprofit radio station that serves primarily the Latino community here in Central Florida. But now we're growing into also serving the Black community and the Brown community here in Central Florida. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then also my co-producer, Chris Majocha, who I love. And, we're like, been ideating for the past 2.5 years this concept of CASA culture, which we're going to talk to you about, and found an amazing collaborator in Efraín. Welcome, Efraín. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. And so, talk to us because we're all entrepreneurs. Chris and I've been working for years. You and I and Chris, though, if I met just this past year, right through the struggles that we all live, right, in
A special
underserved
shout out to William Diaz.
and William Diaz, yes, absolutely. But I was going to get there, right? Because we're all working in silos to help support and really give a voice to underserved and underrepresented communities. And it's because we have these people, right, within our social capital and our networks that listen, that really do care, and that are not parting from a place of scarcity. They like to share and don't hoard, right, resources and knowledge like William Diaz. And yes, I want to give a shout out to William Diaz, a fellow, he's a Venezuelan leader, but also a very powerful leader in the Latino community here in Central Florida, who made that introduction during the summer of 2021 because he listens, right, and he understood that we had to meet, right, Efrain?
Yeah, William Diaz he's a founder of Casa de Venezuela in Orlando, and he's been working for the community basically uh, his entire life. So
Yeah.
ever since
Mhm.
he gotten here, so he's the one person that's that's good with connections. He knows everybody, so he managed to find out what we were doing, and he's like, okay, you guys need to talk. So he got us
Mhm.
together, and here we are.
And here we are, yes. And so, Chris, I know that I don't know if you can take yourself back to 2 years ago when we had this idea. I want to give a shout out to Jamal Ward too,
Yep.
right? And to Shalanda Simmons, Emmanuel, and to Luna Garcia, part of our team, that we were creating this concept of Casa Culture to really give a pathway to entrepreneurs of color to be able to have a presence and a voice in the Central Florida arts community, because there's like a huge void. And you know this because, in your former life,
Exactly.
as the executive with United Arts, right? You saw up close and personal, right? The how underrepresented how underrepresented artists of color are in the art scene here in
Absolutely.
Central Florida.
Yeah, no, I mean, to your point, yeah, with my former role in United Arts of Central Florida, which is an arts fund for Central Florida-based arts and cultural organizations. And no discredit to United Arts; they do great work in the community, but there certainly was a large segment of the population and of the community and of the artists in the community who were going underserved, and a lot of that had to do with equity. Diversity, inclusion, and equity is often the missed part, and the equitable access to for organizations of color to be able to apply for grants and meet the standards of grants without the proper resources or training and stuff was really creating that barrier in large part. So there had to be an answer, something to change in that, whether it's the processes from United Arts change or the organizations change that are applying for those grants. But a lot of times it just takes, community members to step up and try to create that solution, for the community. And I think what we have kind of brought together here and with our collaborations with people like Efraín have just really started something in a momentum for something really cool to come.
Yes, yeah, I agree. And so what is Casa Culture, right? And I also want to give a shout out to Gwen and Will Covington. They've also been instrumental to Marcos Vilar and Alianza. Father Jose Rodriguez also is looking to participate. Tamara Bejarano. I mean, there's so many people, Patricia Kaiser, all of these, Mika King, all of these nonprofit grassroots organizations that have come together representing the Black and Latino community to start, right? And coming together to really create a space where we can grow together and tap into resources, not only to deliver, diverse arts circuit, if you will, but also learn entrepreneurship, because I think that's one of the primary keys, is to really teach creators and artists how to monetize, how to market, and how to grow their craft, but with a business angle, so that way they can, instead of working in something completely unrelated to what they were born to do, which is to create, right? They can focus on their work. Your thoughts on this, Efraín, and what is in your mind's eye, right? Casa Culture.
Well, first of all, Casa Culture to me, it not only represents a platform just for the entrepreneurs, but it represents a coalition where organizations actually now have the ability to come together and be able to do collectively what they would not be able to do independently because of their size. Because a lot of organizations, they're not necessarily either well informed of all the processes involving the 501c3. And God knows that when I started this, I was like looking for the map because I'm trying to figure out, okay, so what do I do now? Because I don't understand the process, but I'm going to jump in anyway, see what happens. And slowly I've been learning. And it's not easy. It's there's a lot of paper trail, a lot of paperwork. Filing tax exempt forms, or how to do your bylaws, or how to go through the process of getting your paperwork organized so you can become a 501c3. It's a complicated process, and it's good to have people in your corner, like in the case of being part of a coalition like Casa Culture, that will have other people that have been where you are to help you and guide you and teach you where you need to go in order to get your organization in the right position. But with that being said, there's a lot of artists that don't understand exactly how this process works. Because let's be realistic. Artists have the ability to create amazing stuff, be it in visual arts, be it in performance, be it in theater, but they all hate paperwork. They all hate paperwork. It's like, oh man, I want to be on stage. I will read the script if it's 200 pages, but do I have to file a report? Yes, you do.
Yep.
and they're like, "Ugh, I don't want to do it anymore." So we're trying to help them and guide them, trying to explain to them like, "Hey, we can work together to make your projects sustainable if we go through the proper channels and go through the proper ropes." That's one
Mhm.
thing, and another thing is having the ability to have the coalition. Going back to the coalition, is that we can intertwine the different talents that we have in the different organizations that we have, and we can work together to create programs that are very exclusive to the nature of what we're trying to get done. So we can combine forces and move forward into not being just one organization doing one thing, but one organization in whole working together, doing several things at the same time within one program that is more effective for the community. Not to mention that we have a lot of like the small organizations, especially I notice it with the Hispanic organizations, when they go to ask for help or grants or support, they tell them, "Yeah, but if I give it to you, I have to give it to 17 more." Okay, then we'll give it to
Mhm.
the other 17. Well, it's not that easy. Well, now we're 17 and we're together in one place. What are you going to tell us now?
Exactly.
Let me get back to you. Nah, it's not going to happen now.
Yes,
But it's
exactly.
one of the great things of having a union in which everybody has a platform that they can rely on to work for them and help them achieve their mission, because it's all about the organization's mission. We're not here about the egos. We're not here about, because I get asked a lot, well, so who founded Casa Culture or who founded the coalition? I'm like, it doesn't matter. It could have been it could have been I don't know, Fred Flintstone for all I care. Bottom line is we get the job done, leave your
Mhm.
ego at the door,
Yep.
and let's
Mhm.
work for the community. That's what we're here for.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the beauty of it. And we've seen how that happens organically, don't we? We have, I also want to, recognize the support and because these courses are going to start taking place in the space. With Bob Kovacevic and his consulting firm Avatar, right? He's also going to help us learn how to do fundraising, how to establish a solid board, and I'm talking for all of the participating organizations, how
I'm
to
looking
line
forward
up.
to it.
Yeah, I know, lining up our ducks, right? To be able to know what to say, how to position your organization to get the support that it needs, and also how to support each other. It's I think that what the thing that satisfies me the most out of all of this is the collaborative spirit that you feel when we walk into the space. And so I just want to share with everybody that we actually do have a space. And so all this stemmed from our initial conversation back in the summer of 2021. Efrain, we were introduced by William Diaz with Casa de Venezuela. And when we sat down, you, myself, and your mom, actually, who's part of the Latino broadcasting family, you were in the old space, right? And you were actually trying to figure out what your next move was, because as an entrepreneur you invest a lot of volunteer hours, right, into creating programming for nonprofits at no cost, right? And to really allow them to use your facilities, right, the facilities of the nonprofit radio station, to be able to get the message out to the community in a culturally competent manner, right, and with heart, and with direction and focus, and really solid calls to action, to support the different initiatives. And after 4 hours, I don't know if you remember, we started crying. I started crying. I couldn't believe it. And your mom too. We're like, where have
Yeah,
you been? And I remember
I
that
had to
you
bring out
said,
the mop because they were like all over the place. Like, oh my god, I can't believe we met. It's like this is so
yeah,
great. We gotta work together. I'm like, all right, cool, let's do this.
exactly. And so then, you had the great idea of looking for a bigger space, for a space where we can have a multi-purpose room, where we can do training, where we could do video recording with a green screen, which you already had all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my God. this is exactly how I had envisioned, right? Casa Culture, a space where we can tell our own stories, where we can have people come and learn, right? And where we can have art, original art created by diverse communities, where those days where history could be swept under the rug are gone, right? Because we have the technology to be able to amplify our voices. And so you're like, let's do it. And so you went ahead and went to just tell us this story of of hustling your way through to landing a spot in the mall, right? Which is kind of like epic.
Well, I mean, basically, we were, before we were at the mall at one point, and then we moved out because of the COVID situation. But once they rehabilitated the mall, the Fashion Square Mall, we noticed that they had a lot of empty spaces, and we once again talked to our friend William Diaz to get us in contact with the proper people in management. We told them what we were doing. We told them what we were working towards building. They seemed interested, and they said, "Well, we got a couple of spaces you might want to check out." So I looked at a few, and then I got everybody on board and told them, "Look, I found these spaces. Let's go take a look at them." So when we all came together, we saw the one space everybody loved. It's like, this one's it. Forget everything else. Let's go. So then, and we took over it.
Yeah. And it was really fantastic. I know that just walking into the space, it felt right. And just knowing that it didn't require much to be able to set it up for people to immediately be able to use it. It was
No, and a
awesome
big
to
shout
see.
out and a thank you to Floor and the Core because they donated the floors. So now we
Yeah.
actually are able to give performance classes because I know there's a lot of dancers that are worried about the type of floor they practice on because they don't like to practice on concrete because it's bad for their ankles and their feet. So yeah, no, we got floors, people. We got floors.
Yes, absolutely. And I also want to recognize the unwavering support of two local organizations and companies, right, that have always trusted and believed in the projects that SOS Orlando, the nonprofit that I launched 4 years ago, does, right? And it's Orlando Health and Florida Blue. They both called back in April, right before the summer, right before you and I met, and said, "Hey, what are you working on?" Right? Because we always support your nonprofit and we always know that you're up to something, right? Up to something new. And so I told them, listen, we're working on this. And this is even before you and I met, Efrain, and you and Chris met, right? So imagine that. This was back in April. And I told them both, I said, listen, it's called Casa Culture. It's a arts equity model, right? I didn't know that the entrepreneurship aspect was going to be added on later on once we got to really discuss it as a team. And I told him I don't know what it's going to look like, but I know it's going to be good, right? And so the confidence and the trust that they've been able to give us as a community, right? To know that we do collaborate because they've seen it, right? All of the work that SOS Orlando does is in collaboration and in partnership with other organizations. We don't work in silos. We actually hate to work in silos. We want to work in teams and groups, right? And so they gave some seed money for this to happen, and so that's why we were able to secure this space. Although, and now we obviously need help to sustain it moving forward. But yeah, I think it's great. What did you think, Chris? I mean, because I know we've been talking about this for ages,
Mhm.
and I know that we visited some spaces. But once you met Efrain and we started to incorporate the entrepreneurship element, right? And you saw the space. I mean, I'm just wondering, what was this mind?
I mean, coming from you had created the logo, Urban had created the logo a while back, and so we already were like, oh wow, there's something in place here for our idea, and just the fact that it was always about being for the community, and as well as people coming to see the art in the community, that it kind of lends itself to both aspects, and really a place where people can feel safe and that they have a place where they know that parents know that their kids will be safe after school, or the parents themselves coming in just bettering themselves in a career, or in a passion where, Orlando, Florida is kind of unique in that Hurricane Maria had happened in 2017, and there was a huge influx of people from Puerto Rico being displaced after the storm. And Orlando is such a diverse place of different cultures that a lot of these people who have come here from other countries or other places, other territories, have these skill sets or these creative talents that they used, in their home places, but now here are just trying to get by and scrape by. So I think for me to see it in action, to see the space and to be able to walk in and feel it and breathe it, it really feels like an opportunity for community to be strengthened and for Orlando's community to be strengthened. I moved down to Florida in 2008 from Massachusetts. And one of my first conversations with somebody was, what's the difference between a yogurt and in Orlando? And they said that the difference was that a yogurt at least had an active culture. And so from 2008, though, now to 2022, I've seen Orlando personally grow in so many aspects, from a cultural standpoint. The food scene, to the music, to all these places popping up that are just, really actually being community centric, and there really wasn't a home for it or for everybody to come together yet. And I think Casa Culture really is that next step for Orlando to honor who is the populations that are in the community without leaving anybody behind, and giving those people an opportunity to succeed and level the playing field, and just make Orlando that magical place that everybody says it is. So that's it's kind of crazy to see it come together. It's surreal.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. And I think it's been pretty seamless in the sense where people are showing up, right? We had a very modest just open house for the people, that are already signed in to, and I'm saying people meaning the organizations and the artists and creators. And it was just such a good vibe. It was in December. And we had Father Jose show up with his choir, right, to sing the Christmas carols, right, as part of his service. He's like, oh, I can't make it because it's the same day that we're doing, las novenas at the church, right? And he's like, unless I come and just do it there. And I'm like, please come, right? So it was fantastic. And so I know that you, Efrain, are working with Will Covington, and Grammy Award winning, musician, on some programming in English, right? That's going to focus on the history, right, of music, and really tell those stories. He has so much experience, so much wealth of knowledge, from being a top musician, award winning musician with BB King and all of these other performers that he worked with throughout the years, and also as a business owner, because he does work in the entertainment industry with his wife Gwen, and they've just been tremendous. And we have all of these resources, right? Also, like entrepreneurship training that is online, self-paced, thanks to our friends at the Latino Business Foundation in Silicon Valley and Santa Clara University, that are giving us access to share those resources and those free courses on entrepreneurship with us and through Casa Culture. So thank you, Jesus Flores, the founder and president of Latino Business Foundation of Silicon Valley, and just everybody. I just feel like everyone is like in the spirit of giving and sharing. And I think that we're all experiencing that. Because of that, we're all growing, right? And there's no, like, these days of hoarding resources and saying, this is mine, right? Like the Lord of the Rings, this is my precious. you know are over. I think that we're discovering and sensing that there's a new way, and that if we share resources, we can all learn and grow, and also our kids can learn and grow. So what are some of the things, Efrain, that you've devised, right? That this space can be used for, and that we're going to teach, and that are going to be taught in this space aside from entrepreneurship.
Well, I mean, we got we got too many ideas. I mean, but the bottom line is that we want to make sure that we practice uh, inclusion and diversity, and we just don't. It's not a matter of preaching it; it's a matter of practicing it. Because it's not the same. Yeah, yeah, we're inclusive and diverse, and another thing is prove it, support
Mhm.
one way or another the organizations that need the support to do that, be it with either resources or the tools for them to be able to do their jobs or do
Mhm.
perform their missions. That's where we come in. The space that
Mhm.
we have is basically a little Swiss Army. It's a 23 by 23 room that now has floors. And again, thank you all the volunteers that went in there and helped us paint and put the floors and make the place ready to go. Asami's husband had a lot to do with it, and Will brought a lot of volunteers, and there were so many other people that I don't want to leave out because I don't remember, but I don't remember all their names. But thank you, anyways. Thank you. But the space itself, basically, it's got a green wall. So if you want to do multimedia projects, you can actually use the green wall for your background. So you can remove the background and do any type of video that you may require for your organization. We have one side that has mirrors for people that want to be able to maybe practice theater, like open scene, that they've actually done already some practices for some of
Rehearsals.
their some rehearsals for some of their performances. The floor. Now that we have a floor, we're gonna have to several. We actually have several dance groups and organizations that will fall into the entrepreneurship program of the arts. So these are artists that are entrepreneurs. We're going to teach them how to get their stuff together so they can become 501c3s and be able to teach and share their culture. We got groups from Mexico, Venezuela, Spain, and we're going to show them, hey, this is how we put everything together so you can give your classes, pass on the culture, and be able to get the funding for the tools that you may need to perform these things. Then we
Mhm.
also have the wall where um, we'll be using for the workshops, which Sammy got up on a ladder and painted a square so we can use a projector and it would look nice. And that's a part of so basically if you walk in the room and you look into any of these walls and you make a left turn, you'll see a different room or a different use for each room or for the same
Yes.
room. But that's why
Yes.
we call it the Little Swiss Army or the Culture Factory. That we've actually christened
Yeah.
it with that name because we
Yeah.
can we can do at any given time anything that we need in order to get to the objective that we need to do to create the final product. Be it uh, educate, create, or inform the community in that one little space.
Yes, I love it. And you have been so generous, Efrain, with all of your
I
equipment.
do.
Yes, you have. But you have, and with your time and your know-how. But I want to just mention with the about the equipment. There's cameras there. You have all of the sound system there, and this is not like beat up stuff. We're talking about top of the line,
Top of the line beat up stuff. No.
yeah, top of the line, yeah, no, but seriously, equipment is the word I was looking for, right? Top of the line equipment, so people can feel comfortable also telling their stories. We want youth programs to take place there. We're also working with a couple of organizations that focus on supporting adults and children with autism, so that way we can teach them, how to use all of this production equipment, you
Yeah,
know.
that's where Voz Latina comes in and the radio station comes in.
Yeah.
Our part of the mission, basically, it's like I try to explain to people that don't necessarily get the casa culture concept in a very because they think it's too vague. Well, let me explain it to you easier. Basically, imagine that we're in the army and that we're a platoon, and each one has a specialist. You got your demolitions, you got your engineering, you got your logistics, you got your communications. Well, I'm the communications guy. Sammy's the logistics lady. You know, Chris is demolitions. No, no, no. He's part of communications as well. But on the bottom line is my job or my function in this mix is to be able to create a program that will empower people and nonprofits and entrepreneurs to effectively create material that will be beneficial for their branding, for their product, and for their organizations, and teach them how to use simple, basic tools and not have to spend thousands of dollars on equipment that they may not necessarily know how to use right off the bat, but to be get creative with simple budget stuff that they can use that is more relatable to everyday usage. So
Mhm.
for example, we want to start a program called mobile journalism and mobile recording. These programs have actually taken off in spaces like Europe, Brazil. Brazil basically has a network of people that are working gathering news content with their phones in the favelas where no reporter can go in because it's so dangerous.
Mhm.
And they're the ones that bring the information to the front. In India, you would not believe how far ahead they are. And even though they're not necessarily even up to the level of high quality video that we expect, they're still working with video. And
Mhm.
they do a lot of stuff with audio because it's more accessible for their communities. But see, all this material is created not by seasoned reporters, but by people that live in those communities and want to be able to highlight and show what's going on in the community to the other people in the world, to the outside world, to the local politicians. And they a lot of times they pay notice. And that's the kind
Mhm.
of stuff that we want to start doing here. For example, for the people that want to be working in the nonprofit sector, the people that want to be able to provide better information for their communities to our elected officials, and for the people that want to be able to learn how to effectively um, create content for their products. And that's one part of the equation. The other part of the equation is that we want to help these organizations, or our main mission right now is to create content in which we can inform and entertain the community, as well as be able to um, have the space where other organizations can have a bigger window when it comes to highlighting their programs and their services. For example, and it's hard to say it because it's true. A lot of local commercial radio stations, they will give you certain amount of space because they are required to. That's part of their community mission by the FCC. But the space is so limited and so small, and sometimes you'll hear a program that's public service for the community on a Sunday at 7 a.m. Doesn't do, who's up on Sunday at 7 a.m. listening to the radio? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but at least I sleep till 8. So we make sure that if we got an organization, like let's say, uh, so you want to see your name in lights, and they
Mhm.
have a program that's with Will and Gwen Covington, and they have a program that is to be able to that helps to teach kids, or to show and highlight kids doing performance art and teaching them how to do music and all this stuff. We want to make sure that program gets highlighted. Another program,
Mhm.
another organization that we've helped in the past or that we worked with has been Hispanic Federation. We, for example, they talk about events that they're going to do and things that they're going to do, and we put them on the air and we give them a rotation. Why? Because you know if you go into one station and talk about this for 30 minutes, that's just once, and
Mhm.
if, in a period of 1 month, it disappears.
Yeah.
Now, if you mention it every day, and it's like we embed it into our programming, so the message gets out at all odd hours. So there's a bigger range of people listening, and a lot more people can find out what's going on, so they can benefit from these programs. And that's the
Yeah.
whole thing. You know, the people don't know that these programs are out there if you don't expose them and have them accessible to them in one way, shape, or form, be it social media, be it over the air with radio, or be it with video via um, social media, or even TV, or even cable, streams.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that's the beauty of this coalition and of the space, that within the space you have the radio station, which is almost like the megaphone, like you're literally the megaphone of the community, right? And teaching us how to do that. And then we have the multi-purpose room, which, the culture factory, where the production of art, right,
The
and content
factory.
is happening. Yes, it's happening in real time. So that way, from that space, we can disseminate, we can communicate, we can take action, and we can really impact, have some social impact, and change things for the better in our community and really bring opportunities, bring capacity building, bring knowledge, bring experts, right? Draw in people, but we need funding for that, and so that's the thing. I really admire that you were able to establish Voz Latina Broadcasting, because as an entrepreneur, you saw an opportunity. You had mentioned to me that Facebook a couple of years back had put out a grant announcing that, entrepreneurs that were giving back to the community would be able to vie for up to $100,000 in funding, right? To establish whatever thing we're
Well, this one
proposing,
was a little bit more
right?
specific. This one was
Okay.
for news and journalist projects.
Okay.
But I mean,
Yeah.
we've always been focused on creating content from the community. So we've
Yes.
always had programs that discuss news. We have always had programs that discuss COVID. We've always had programs that covered human interest. And we applied and we got it, and that's how we
Yeah.
originally started the idea. And
Yeah.
and hopefully now we can, now we're in level 2, we can
Yeah.
make it keep going. So now that we have the momentum, we can finally, God bless, we get rid of the COVID.
Yeah.
What version are we on? Version 5.0?
Oh my God. Don't even. Don't get me started
Anyway,
on that.
it's we want to get rid of this thing
Yeah.
so we can actually start working on having all the people back together and be able to give classes and workshops and be able to do a
Yeah.
lot more. It hasn't been
Yes.
easy because just when you think
Yeah.
we're out of it, it's like, hey, we're out of COVID. Oh, Delta comes along. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
great.
know.
Okay, now we're almost out of Delta. Okay, good. Omicron comes along. I'm like, what's the next one?
Yeah.
Now it's what,
Yeah.
Delta Cron?
Oh, I don't
And that's
even
like a
know.
combination
I
that
mean,
they actually did like
but,
a transformer thing. I was like,
yeah, I know.
like you
But to
gotta be
your
kidding.
point, I just wanted to your point though, when we're talking about the causes, right? Because you started this thing to give a voice to the nonprofit sector, but the news, and then you mentioned about, yeah, but it was really like the New Jersey, but it's all in the same if you think about it, right? Because underserved communities and underrepresentation, that is news, right? To highlight
Yeah,
those
well,
disparities.
you got to maintain the community informed, and
Exactly.
our community is well underserved and underinformed. As a matter of
Yes.
fact, Latino news is one of the most underserved um, fields right now, and it's really hard because, for example, you got organizations that do a lot of journalistic work, but a lot of their journalistic work goes back to talking to experts in English, and they don't necessarily translate the material into Spanish in an effective form, and
Mhm.
you lose a lot in the process because there's a lot of great information that's being lost because you can either a access it, or b, you don't have professionals in the Spanish language field that you can actually relate to be able to conduct these interviews or investigations.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so, yes, absolutely. And right now, where we need the support of the broader community, and I wanna say to the broader business community too. I mean, we can go out and fill out grants, and we can, but we're looking at this point for sponsorships, right? And there are a lot of goodies. There are a lot of goodies that are packed into that, right? We have all the expertise, not only just here, but I'm talking about the other organizations to really um, highlight your commitment to underserved and underrepresented communities, to give you some time on airwaves, right? So if you're listening to this and you really want to um, have some social impact and put your corporate responsibility dollars into use, you see, and that's where I come in as part of that military, what did you say, that platoon, right?
Yeah, the
The
platoon.
logistics, right? I'm logistics and fundraising, right? Because my organization doesn't provide programming. We create models, we create programming, and then bring in all of the key players that can make it happen. And we're making it happen. This is not fluff. This is not, pipe dreams. This is happening. We have 2,600 square feet, right? Where we're creating, where we're really already having classes, where we're doing capacity building, right? We are already offering entrepreneurship training all in this one space, and we want to encourage companies, the corporate sector, okay, big and small, every little bit counts, to help us. We have sponsorships that include radio time, sponsoring one of the organizations. If you want a plaque on the wall, we'll put a plaque on the wall. Hey, we already know, different how do you say, people are interested in different things, but we really have ways to celebrate your
Yeah,
participation.
we definitely have ways of showing recognition for support. That's
Correct.
something that a lot of organizations didn't, for example, have before. A lot of organizations are out there saying, "Yeah, we'd like to donate, but what do we get?" Well, with us, you have the ability that we have, recognition support, or well, support for your recognition, because we can actually, thank you on the air, and say that this program is sponsored by, such and such, and we can share that you're helping our mission, serve a community that will also uh, uh, demonstrate that you're also a part of the community.
Yeah.
So supporting us and having that recognition on the air allows our audience to see what organizations are actually helping and are really committed to the community, versus others are like, yeah, we help. No, you don't. Why?
Yeah.
Uh,
And
because
yeah.
we because we do. No, no, no. Well, these guys are actually helping, and they're, we know because they're on, the station saying thank you. So, keep
Yes,
that in mind.
totally. And if you can show up, even better, right? If we can
Yeah.
have these discussions and these spaces and really collaborate and find new ways to grow the impact that we're doing, aside from the monetary sponsorship, we're game. We're all ears, and we love to ideate and create. And I think that that's something different that perhaps, you know, um, having to align with a grant, for example, which is something difficult, right? Getting these sponsorships will allow us to be nimble and to really listen to the community and to their needs. So that way we can make sure that the funding goes towards addressing those needs in the community, and not having to fit a round peg into a square, a round
The square hole.
peg
Yeah.
a square space, right? Which is normally what a lot of these grants do. And I know, we've seen a lot of this, right? We've tried, Chris, in trying
Not
to
only that.
have
No.
a source of funding, and it's just so challenging. And so we're really hyper focused on the corporate sector, and all of these companies that have wanted to step up, their presence and their and the impact that their donations make. And here you have a coalition of organizations, that are black and brown, that are coming together. So it's a one-stop shop for your donation. Have like killer,
And not
killer.
only
Uh-huh.
uh, not only that, Sami, there's a key thing that it's also good to mention, that organizations, there's a lot of community driven organizations that not only can share their support, but like you were saying, can share ideas and programs. For example, I would love to be able to have a law firm that can come in and support the station, and at the same time say, okay, let me explain to you what we need to do as Latinos when we encounter the police. I just actually started working on this program in which
Mm-hmm.
it shows you the 10 steps of how to handle an encounter with a police officer, or show people what their rights are. Because a lot of people, they don't necessarily understand a lot of things about police interaction and police encounters, and they figure they have to follow everything by the law. But, and I'm getting ahead of myself here, but the bottom line is that other organizations can actually come in, and if they want to support us, great. And if they got something they can bring and contribute to the table and include into what we're doing, feel free to bring it in.
Yeah.
We'll be more
Totally.
than happy. We got the space to teach it. Come on down.
Totally. Anything else you might want to add, Chris, about, Casa Culture and what we're looking to do?
Yeah, I think just kind of going along the same lines of what you and Efrain were just talking about is, in addition to the the recognition for contribution and sponsorship. I think one of the biggest things from my experience of working in nonprofits and with donors to the arts community is that donors want to see the impact of their dollar. And it's one thing to show it on a report or what have you, but when you're impacting a space like this that is so multifaceted and the Swiss Army, for people to do production and create and learn, the direct tie from the dollar to seeing the impact. I think there's a straight line there with CASA Culture where you can say, hey, I sponsored this program or this radio show or this, this performance or the space for kids to learn, and you can actually see that and, use it in your annual reports and stuff as well. But, as the gringo in this conversation, I will say one thing that CASA Culture, and I think the timing for me of why this is so important is obviously it wasn't so long ago that we had the incidents with George Floyd that really exposed the systemic racism and police brutality, and could go into a whole different number of rabbit holes with that. But I think as a white person, one of the biggest things I saw as somebody who works in communities of color is I saw so many white people like, oh, well, if I only knew how to help, or I wish I could help, but I don't know how. I don't know how to contribute, or if I do contribute, how do I know it's going to go, my dollar is going to go to the right thing. And CASA Culture to me is a way where when you're really impacting community, I don't think there's a better way to actually start that, that line of support or open that dialogue, open that door to step in and actually, if you say, oh, I would help if I knew how, well, CASA Culture is how. So, from a personal standpoint, a corporate standpoint, if you are inspired by, this conversation and say, whether monetarily or from a volunteer standpoint, or if you have a program that you're working on that you think would fit well with this, I say, make that phone call to us, send us an email, and let's get started, because this is what community is, and it's not just, again, one organization saying, oh, well, we're doing a better job helping this community than the other. No, that this is all these organizations working together, and so your dollar is truly impacting those who are going to benefit from it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that, Chris. And yes, and you explained that so well. And this also shows, right, for all those people that are like a little bit apprehensive, this is a safe space.
Yep.
As you can see, we have these candid, open, and you got to see the ones we do off the record, off before we're not recording, right? We have like really legit, open conversations that are really focused on coming together, on understanding each other, on caring for each other. And so we're hoping that we get the support we need so we can have not only a CASA Culture here in Central Florida, but I already spoke with our friends in Silicon Valley. You think there's a big wealth gap and underrepresentation here? That's a whole other conversation, right? In Silicon Valley, it's like, whoa, it's like a humongous crater. And so, so we're talking with them, right? Our friends in Atlanta too. I've been talking with Lakeisha, right, about having one in Atlanta. So this is where we're at. We want to prove that this model works, that this pilot works, and that good things can come out of us coming together and putting to aside our differences and really giving a shit about one another. That's basically where it boils down to. So anyway, I love you guys. You're familia to me, and I really look forward to what this new year is going to bring in terms of the impact, what little it may be or as large as it can be, right? We have in the community. Thank you so much for being part of this.
Thank you for having me.
This concludes this episode of I Have Something to Say. We want to thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to tell your friends about us. We're on Spotify and iTunes as well. There's more to come next week. And remember, if you have something to say, it's time to speak up.